Safety Committee meeting. Is it working? I don't think it is. Yes, it is on. I think it's working now. Thank you.
There you go.
So calling to order the public safety meeting of Monday, December 16th, 2024. With that, I will call for a motion to approval of minutes from the meeting of November 18th, 2024.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on, now the meeting is open to public comments. If you have any comments, Daniel, from the public on the email?
Not an email.
Hearing none, if there is anyone who wishes to come up to the podium and address the committee, this will be the time to do it.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay, or do I need a little
Yes.
closer
Yes.
to the microphone? Okay. So, good evening, committee members. My name is Jeff Gerace, and I'm a deputy chief, currently in charge of training for the fire department, and I live at 9 Gaylord Drive. I'm here before you today in support of the proposed training ground improvements. I'm confident you will weigh all the factors and make a recommendation in the best interest of the town. I applaud your efforts to be thorough and ensure any impactful public safety changes are vetted. My goal in speaking to you is to ensure I provide perspective based on my experience to provide context when it comes to the needs specifically related to training. I would also like to dispel some concerning statements that have been made in previous meetings regarding the perceived environmental and health impact of the facility modifications. If I may start with a bit of context in regards to our current training resources. As has been discussed in the past, we are fortunate to have a training facility behind Fire Station Number 2 on New Britain Avenue, consisting of shipping containers, gas-fed props, including a gas grill, storage tank, car fire, and household gas manifold. The facility also houses a dedicated roof cutting prop and numerous connections and doors simulating a large interconnected structure likely found in residential or commercial areas. The current training ground facility is conservatively used 2 out of 4 training days per month by anywhere from 5 to 45 personnel at a time. Training evolutions include forcible entry, search and rescue, ventilation, saw cutting, hose line advancement, water supply, all the way up to and including live fire training. While the fire service continues to refine and adapt to changes, the one constant that remains is the need to adjust our training to meet the challenges of the emergencies that we face. We are grateful for the resources we have. However, we must face the reality that building methods and manufacturing components have fundamentally shifted the methods we use to fight fires. And the time we have to effect life rescue or extinguish fires has greatly reduced over the years. We have no choice but to adapt. The only proficiency in doing so will come from modern and purpose-built training structures and methods. My fundamental duty as the training officer is to ensure our department members receive the necessary training to safely and effectively serve the public in the capacity they sign up for when joining our fire department. To that end, it's my firm belief that the proposed improvements will present our department members with props designed to meet these challenges, and most importantly, better serve our customers. To underscore that point, I ask that you give strong consideration to the fact that what we do as firefighters is not for our own benefit, rather a commitment to serve our community and the people in it. You are our customers, and this is an investment in that resource. I would like to address some comments made regarding the perceived carcinogenic impact of live fire training and the statements related to how expanding the training ground could exacerbate or somehow place the public in any danger. To be clear, the health and safety of our own membership would never be compromised by knowingly exposing anyone to potentially hazardous conditions, including ourselves We all have loved ones, and the idea that anyone would intentionally subject any of us to such dangerous conditions is simply absurd. Furthermore, any fire conditions we face in training are prescribed using only natural materials, no different than those used on campfires or in a fireplace. Certainly, the intensity is designed to closely simulate conditions faced in an emergency situation we would be called to extinguish. However, no synthetic materials, such as glues or petroleum-based materials, are ever used in a training environment. All burning is coordinated with other public safety agencies, such as police and EMS, and in the 21 years that training ground has existed, I cannot recall a time when the public complained or was impacted in any way by our training operations. All burn operations are supervised and approved at a minimum by a Connecticut Fire Instructor Level 2 certified personnel who have received over 100 hours of training to ensure state and national training and safety guidelines are followed. And a mandated ratio of safety officers is always upheld. Under no circumstances are we putting ourselves or the public at any intentional risk of carcinogenic exposure. In summary, I ask that you endorse this opportunity to help ensure this and future generations are well served by offering the best opportunities to train our dedicated volunteer firefighters. I personally commit to continue doing everything in my power to best train and prepare our department for the many challenges we continue to face, and I ask for your assistance in doing so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wishes to come up and address the committee?
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. My name is Mark Gentili. I live at 63 Harvest Lane, and I am also a Deputy Chief in the Rocky Hill Fire Department in the Health and Safety Division. The Rocky Hill Fire Department is very fortunate to have our own training facility including a propane-fired structure fire simulator. Deputy Chief Gerace is handing out a picture of what it looks like inside that simulator when there's that actual live fire burning, and it looks something like this. Now, as you can see from that picture, you can see all the way across the room, and there's no smoke at the top of the building. It's all at the bottom. That's because it's simulated smoke in this structure. It's theatrical smoke which burns off in heat, which doesn't make the training as realistic. It's great for introductory fire suppression. We are allowed to basically see what the firefighters are doing and make sure they're doing their operations correctly, but it doesn't necessarily give us what we're going to see on a real structure fire. Our training programs and facilities have prepared our firefighters to progress in multiple certification level courses and have set the standard for continuing education. We've actually been told by multiple Firefighter 1 classes that our people are probably the best prepared when they get to those classes across multiple towns and counties. In 1992, when I started in the fire service, I personally would go to about 15 to 20 structure fires per year. That's a high-risk, high-frequency event. Firefighters are able to pull from their experience to respond to the situations they encounter. Councilor Prakash, I believe you actually saw one of those situations on August 5th, 2022, when you appeared at one of our structure fires on New Britain Avenue. We had a report of a structure fire with entrapment in the building, and prior to the first engine company even arriving, we had 2 members in that building searching for members that might be in that family. We were fortunate that nobody was in there, but that training and that experience came to task when we were able to put people in that building at that time. Today, that 2-man crew, I want you to flip that picture over. That's kind of what we encountered on New Britain Avenue. As you can see, it's much different than what you see on that training fire. And if you can figure out which way to hold it up, I give you credit. Today, the fire department itself responds to only 3 to 5 structure fires a year. That turns this into a high-frequency, low-frequency event and increases the danger to our members. You must understand, a member with less than 10 years of experience does not have the knowledge base to draw from to actually go into those buildings without help. And you have to understand that of the approximate 50 firefighters we have, 17 members have less than 5 years experience. An additional 8 have less than 10. We are recruiting even more, which is a good thing, but those firefighters are going to need to be trained and trained well. Due to the lack of real fires, the National Fire Protection Association requires 1 live burn training each year. one live burn training is not enough to suit the training that we have to go into. The proposed improvements to our training grounds provided by Mission CIT will allow us to develop our firefighters and provide them with the experience necessary to combat today's structure fire. When you're pushing down a dark smoke-charged hallway at 2 a.m. searching for a missing child or family member, you don't want to have to worry about whether you have the experience necessary to do the job and accomplish your task. I ask that you approve and submit the contract between the Town of Rocky Hill and Mission CIT to the consent agenda for tonight's Town Council meeting. This partnership enhances our training programs to better serve our community. In closing, I'd just like to give you 2 quotes. Firefighting is much like being on the battlefield, and the first is by Admiral Arleigh Burke from the United States Navy. In the heat of battle, you don't remember very much. You don't think very fast, you act by instinct, which is really training. So you got to be trained for the battle that you will react, so you will react the exactly way that you are trained. The second quote is on the FDNY training buildings on Randall Island. It sits on the wall and it says, let no firefighters goes come back and say their training let them down. Please don't let our training let us down. Approve the contract. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
Good evening. John Ritchie. I live at 157 Elm Street. I'd like to talk on behalf of the training facility for the fire department. Currently, I hold a staff captain's position, and I assist Deputy Chief Gerace with the training. As you all know, our volunteer firefighters are the first responders for emergencies. Their training directly impacts the safety of residents and the protection of property, which includes the town's tax base. Effective training ensures quick, safe, and efficient responses to incidents, fostering community trust and safety. All skills are perishable. The need for certification along with conducting drills is paramount. While policymakers would like to believe that firefighters will always exceed expectations, the truth is they fall to their level of training. An investment in training is an investment in the town. The fire training that has been provided by Mission CIT, and hopefully with the signing of this new contract, they will continue to provide a higher level of training under live fire conditions, which is both priceless and invaluable. Quality training enhances morale amongst volunteers as well, which is crucial for retention. Our volunteers are not only protecting the community, but they're also risk their lives along with risking injury, making comprehensive training indispensable. Good training programs can make volunteers feel valued and competent, reducing turnover, enhancing community commitment. External instructors help provide specialized and advanced training. This is vital for ensuring volunteers are up to date with best practices and new technologies. We are not just fighting fires and responding to car accidents, as the past deputy chiefs mentioned. We're providing training in other disciplines such as rope rescue, confined space, trench, vehicle extrication, and structural collapse emergencies. That's only to name a few. We're also faced with being up to date with all the new OSHA standards that need to be covered. Last month, the question was brought up regarding current members as being instructors. We do value their participation, and we take it strongly. Instructors must have a balance between knowledge, training, and experience. It's not just about being a good firefighter. They must be able to have the necessary content delivery skills, knowledge, and abilities to inspire our members. Currently, we're averaging 32 members each week for training. Last year, we paid Mission CIT approximately $14,000 to cover our training for the year. That equivalents to just about $5 per person per hour. I think that's a pretty good bang for our buck. The initial cost for the Mission CIT for the site improvements for this contract will run approximately $100,000. Does the town have that money to make these investments? I'll have you answer that yourselves. The contract also offers free 5 slots per class. That also equivalents to about $375 per class, and provides a 20% cost savings, which annually will equal out over $3,000. In my opinion, Mission CIT is a cost-effective way to maintain high training standards without hiring a full training staff, which will equal about $130,000 a year. In closing, challenges face the fire service every day. The complexity of emergency responses has increased. We need the specialized training to handle these new challenges, ensuring we effectively deal with modern fire hazards without undue risk. A trained fire department is a more effective fire department. Firefighters not only save lives, they save tax base, which we should recognize this training as an investment in their safety and their well-being. I think the dedication in this room shows that they deserve the best. And I'll tell you, my son's gonna make fun of me, but I've been doing this for 42 years, and I have never seen a more dedicated group of men and women that stand in front of you tonight and that are at home that can't make it probably due to the holidays. So with that said, I would wish your support for this contract to be signed for our protection, which equals the community's protection. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wishes to come up and speak at the podium and address the committee? No one? Hearing none, we'll move on to our regular departmental updates, starting with fire. Chief.
Well, thank you. And first of all, and right off the bat, I want to thank the membership for the support tonight. Many of these guys started their day at about 5:30 this morning with a carbon monoxide incident, and they've been going strong since then. So much appreciation out to all you guys out there for being here. So you have our report, but just to add a few things for call volume. That call I mentioned at 5:30 report was our 800th call of the year. November, we had 76 calls for service. A few weeks ago, we had a new member orientation, and we extend our gratitude to the mayor and to Councilor Whalen for attending. And that's about it from the fire side. Stand by for questions.
None here, thank you.
No, all set.
Actually, I do have some questions, Chief. You have this report about the manpower, in the summary. I think we are averaging out around 65 members, I think, right now, which is 8 members lower than in 21-22. Can you go into a little bit of detail about why that is the case? Why we are averaging 8 members lower than
Well,
let's say
if we
4 years
look
ago?
at 2022, we went down to 66.
Right.
2020, 72, 2021, 73. Just like everybody else or any other business or organization, we took a hit from COVID, and that was the hit. And we lost some manpower because of that. We are building it back up. We have stabilized in the manpower. We've actually increased. We had, I believe it was 10 new people at the new employee orientation or new member orientation recently. We have 4 more that need to go through that. So we're building back up. We've also had some retirements. One of these gentlemen talked about the age of the fire department. Well, we have a considerable amount of members under 10 years. We have about a dozen, maybe more, over 25 years. So we've had some retirements. We had 2 retirements on December 1st. So that's where you're seeing the manpower fluctuations, Pankaj.
Okay, and the context I'm asking this is in you have been doubling down on your recruiting efforts recently, and with a lot of social media presence and elsewhere as well. How's that going?
The media presence, what we're finding that works best for us, 2 things. Number 1, word of mouth, asking somebody to help. And number 2 is the signs, whether they're the electronic signs or the front lawn signs. I'm not sure the exact term for them. I'm sorry?
Yard signs.
The yard signs, yes, thank you, Mayor. The yard signs, they seem to be bringing in the most recruits, and those were probably the simplest solutions. And once we started pushing those real well, we're starting to bring in people. And I want to say, out of the 14, 15 I just previously mentioned, we brought in 1 with experience. So the 14 of them, 13 to 14 of them are starting off fresh, starting off brand new.
And what are the challenges with those new recruits in terms of operations and things like that?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges, and I commend them for this, is walking through the front door, crossing that threshold into a whole new environment, into a busy fire department, a lot of Class A or Type A personalities, and bringing them into the fold. One of the things we do very successfully is we have a mentorship program. And right off the bat, day one, you're assigned a mentor. And that person becomes your best friend in the department. We reevaluate after 6 months. And we see how that person's progressed. After 6 months, you get a number of calls. You've got a number of training. We're also running a recruit class because, as John mentioned about the training, builds confidence, builds morale, and we're running a recruit class. And after about 6 months, now we're evaluating you for certification training. Do you have the time for it? Because certification training is a big commitment. 2 nights a week, plus at least 1 weekend day, and for about 4 months. So it's a considerable undertaking for that new member. And if you think about it, 6 months before that,
Right.
their life was unencumbered by the fire department. And now, boom, you're flat out. So I hope that answered your question.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the details. Moving on, we'll move to emergency management. Back to you, Chief.
Okay. Bear with me a couple seconds. Okay. From the
So while you're collecting your notes, I just want to say something as well.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
please.
So I know that recruitment and retention's been an ongoing issue for your department as well as police, and it's something that's been happening for years, so I don't want anyone to think it's a unique situation to Rocky Hill. It's certainly something that on the public safety committees that I sit on, we make a lot of recommendations to the legislation. And this year, on 3 of my committees, again, one of our top priorities is retention and recruitment, specifically for the volunteer fire departments.
Yeah, no, thank you, Madam Mayor, because actually, since you opened that door, I was actually going to ask you, Chief, like if this was a problem, elsewhere as well in other towns, neighboring towns. So just piggybacking on that question, are you aware of that? Obviously, it seems like a problem statewide.
We are aware of that. It is a challenge in all other towns, and that's one of the reasons, and this is not a new challenge, but that's one of the reasons why years ago we created the 5-town task force to assist with those manpower shortages in all 5 towns. The state viewed our operating model, and now they've taken that operating model, expanded it throughout the state, where we're Task Force 51. It goes up, there's 17, I believe 17 more task force, all based on the operating model, which started right here in Rocky Hill with Chief Kohanek. So yeah, it's been a hill we've been climbing for a number of years.
Now back to you on the emergency management.
Okay. From the emergency management side, I just want to say I recently attended the Region 3 Annual Emergency Management Director meeting. Much focus on winter storm planning, as well as review of some of the bigger events in the state. The flooding events from, I want to say, August, and then we went into a drought, and then the brush fire events, and specifically a lot of detail went into the Hawthorne fire. I've also attended the Eversource training in Berlin, again focusing on winter storm prep. And during our monthly sit-down with our Eversource rep, we continued to our discussion about storm prep. They're putting a lot of time, energy, and effort into making sure the winter goes well. And that's about it. Stand by for questions there.
Counselor?
No questions here. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Counselor, any
Questions? Thank you, Chief.
Madam Mayor? Thank you. I don't have any questions on emergency management. Is there a tabletop exercise which we need to, which is in the first Q1, like first quarter or something?
No.
Am I wrong about that?
We had a tabletop, and it was a statewide tabletop exercise, and it's called EPPI, that we participated in, and I want to say it was back in July. And again, statewide, and it was based on the November election and the security procedures around that. I do believe we did report on that in September.
Right. I think you did. I was just wondering, is it twice a year or once a year? Like once a year. Thank you. Moving on to ambulance. Thank God I did not jump over that because this time the chief would have just not forgiven me at all.
Forgive you every time,
Sorry about it.
all the time.
You are very kind. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Prakash. We had, where'd my notes go? I was looking at something else. Okay.
We're so used to being skipped, sorry.
I know. You forgot your presentation today, right? You're like, he never asks us anyway. So.
Okay. Do you want the totals, or you want to do the totals? Okay, I can do the totals. Okay, so Aetna and RHVAA totals, we had 348 responses. Can everyone hear me okay? It's usually no one can.
Yeah,
Okay.
just for the recording, probably.
I was conscientious before it was half over this time. Okay. We had 348 responses total, 236 transports. Rocky Hill did 60 transports total, 10 were ALS, 33 were BLS, 9 refusals, 8 public assists. We have several new member applications, and we now have 371 and 370 online. We got 371 went through inspection with the state, and it passed on the first crack, which doesn't happen often, and thanks to my wonderful volunteer staff. They did such a hard job, and it was such a cohesive, energetic effort. It was a challenge. But we now have 2 trucks online. At this point, it's we've actually been able to get them both working and running at the same time again, which has been something that hasn't happened in a long time, so I'm very excited about that. We had our senior housing occasion that we had with Kerry Wood. We did a food drive, thank you. I do have words once in a while.
It's the good stuff you gotta talk about. You can't forget about that.
You can hear me and hear me not think, right? And we were able to we had a lot of fun with that, the seniors over at 36 Willow Road. And we did have a memorial for Joe Grab. It was a 3-year anniversary of his passing, and that went off I think we had that planned within 2 weeks, and with several hitches, but it went off swimmingly well. Using literally one of the ambulances as an energy source because we did not bring something wireless that was battery operated. I mean, why would we do that? We needed, and I'm sure Joe is laughing at this all this time because I actually needed to bring an ambulance to the middle of the thing because I needed a plug. So we brought an inverter. We are now planning ahead of time, much more efficiently and effective. Keep laughing at me, Chief. I see you. We're planning his next one now, so it'll be smooth sailing. We're upgrading our education. We did, I just signed the purchase orders for a new online system for our new online education and a new I just signed the purchase order for a new EPCR system yesterday. So we're doing lots of great moving forwards. So, Dave.
Thank you. I think we'll just go to Dave, and then we'll take the questions all in one.
Yeah.
Sounds
Thank you.
good. All right, so I'll try to keep this short and sweet for you guys. In November, Aetna responded to 288 calls for service with 193 transports. Our average response time was 5 minutes and 38 seconds. Cardiac arrests last month, there were 3. One was transported after we were able to get return of spontaneous circulation. We're still following that patient to see what their outcome is going to be. And unfortunately, we did have 2 presumptions. Opiate-related encounters were up to their highest, I believe, of 2024. We did have 5. One, unfortunately, was included in one of those presumptions. We did, however, see in those opiate cases, there were 2 bystander Narcan administrations, which is nice to see as well. We are currently working on our annual skills validations for both the paramedics and the EMT and all the other annual training that comes to the end here at the end of the year. And on Wednesday, we are welcoming 12 new EMTs to our company, and we're very excited about that. So with that, I believe we stand ready for questions.
Just a comment, Dave, just struck by that average response time of 5.5 minutes. That seems remarkably low compared to past months. So congratulations, keep up the good work.
We're going to say we did great work. We'll just go from there. No, it was nice to see. Thank you.
Awesome.
Question about recruiting with the volunteers. Sounds like you're doing a great job at it. Are you doing something different from in the past, or?
I'm trying to be charming, but that's.
That helps.
That's good.
I can tell you that.
Okay.
Thank you. Other than just trying to overall, basically, I've been working in the business. I work in EMS full-time also, so I do have a lot of relationships outside of Rocky Hill that I utilize, and I have been just trying to utilize everything I can. And we collaborate. For example, if I know a school has EMTs, EMT school, oh, hey, I know you teach there. I need some of your students.
Good.
So I've been grabbing a lot
helpful.
of students that they're still in their training stage, and I take them and I say, oh, come with me. And now, because we're starting our own, I would rather have the students start with me and learn. And then as soon as they have their numbers, they're ready to go.
Nice.
I have
Good.
a method to my madness. So I've got several people that are right there right now doing that.
Good.
So
You mentioned that you have 2 trucks. Are they both staffed and able to be used?
they're both
With
able
2
to
on
be
the,
used.
well, but on the road at the same time? Do you have staffing enough to use them?
At this point, that's where I'm trying to get it. So I
Okay.
do have enough staff. It's getting the staff to come to utilize it.
Okay.
So it's a new concept for some of them because they have not been there long enough. Some of us old fogies that have been there since the beginning of time know that you can run 2 staff. They don't necessarily remember or weren't around when we used to run 2 trucks all the time.
Okay.
Or even 3. So we're not running 3 right now because
Right.
the 3rd truck has been there since I started there, so we'll leave that alone. So,
Good. Thanks for getting everything up and going.
you're
And
welcome.
Just a question about the opiate encounters. In the past, months you've been talking about this new strain of opiate kind of in the Middlesex County area. Do you think it's coming this way?
So I haven't seen anything, and perhaps Mr. Brown would be in a better position from his kind of position to say, is it that? I don't think so. We did see at least an uptick in overall cases across the board from Hartford as well as counties or not counties but towns to the north. So I don't necessarily think that's what this was, but I say that with the caveat of I don't 100% know.
I'm glad that this Narcan's been at some of the residences to help out too. I mean, that think made survival rates higher?
Well, certainly, getting Narcan on board sooner is never going to be a bad thing. I think, the education point there is, you do want to make sure you're assessing to make sure everything else is going. So you do want to make sure that, after you give it, that you assess for a pulse and make sure that that's not also an issue. But overall, the administration of Narcan and getting that out as a reversal agent to the general public is a great initiative. And while it doesn't necessarily treat the underlying problem, it at least can make sure that we can get people to treatment and try to get down that pathway a little bit better, because there's not a lot we can do if we don't reverse that agent. So I definitely think that helps, and I think hopefully we see this, we kind of nick this, because it's been a problem in Connecticut for past few decades, and I think in recent years it's become more, there's been more news and more attention to it, and I'm glad that we're paying attention to it, but we just need to keep working and keep grinding away to make sure we are treating the people that are really suffering. So
Now, do you guys leave it behind also? I know the volunteers do.
Yes,
You
we
guys
do.
it too also.
yeah, we had so I think because we took in a shipment for both Hartford and here, so we got about 240 cases, and I want to say we average on a weekly. I couldn't break it down by like the areas, but on average we give away probably about 10 kits a week. So so far, so I'm going to be out of supply in sooner than I thought, but.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor? Thank you. I have a question about, I wrote this down, the EPCRS, is that like a compliance system or something, or?
So that's the EPCR system is what we use, that's our paper system, what we use to bill, and the electronic patient care report is what it's.
So is this like a new implementation? Within
I'm
the
just
volunteer.
changing systems into a more compatible system with the hospital.
I see. Is there like a information technology integration to this thing?
It'll be interesting. That's the word of the week.
Okay. So you're going to a completely new system, and this is just not like for trainings and stuff, this is also billing.
This is to bill so that the hospital will be able to talk to the billing company will be able to talk to us. There's an integration system, we'll actually get patient feedback. So there's a learning curve that comes with it too.
But this conceivably, this could be a good thing in terms of like the data integration, and I don't know if you use a similar system at Aetna or.
So we don't use that system so PCR is patient care record, so it's where all that patient information gets into.
Right.
We do utilize the program that they're going to. There's a component called Health Data Exchange, and what it is it's a health information management, health information exchange program. It does a bi-directional communication. So what it'll do is, we'll transmit that PCR instead of having to fax it like we used to.
Right.
Now it's going to be into a digital portal. That portal then, based on certain criteria, will then match up and go directly into the patient's chart. So if you have like my chart, or if you're, this is just the one I'm familiar with, it'll go right into there. So even the patient will now be able to see the EMS chart. But the benefit to the EMS agencies is now we're able to see the hospital information for billing, but also, and this is great for our providers, is you get the outcome information of what actually happened to your patient you're caring for. So if you suspected that, hey, I thought this was a stroke patient, it'll come back to the user who put it in, only the user, not it's not for everybody. It's still, HIPAA compliant, but it'll say, hey, yes, they did have a stroke and you met all your benchmarks type of stuff. So there's a lot of powerful education tool just within that of being able to get information back to folks.
So you will be up to speed with that. The system will be on the volunteer side, which seems like a pretty big deal to me,
It's a huge deal.
right? I mean, this should be like, so how do you like implement something like that? Like, do you have internal skills and capabilities within the volunteers, or do you have external? Okay,
Yes.
so you hire externally and
I
for that
took
implementation.
care of everything, yeah. I took care of it.
Okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. But I'm just curious because this seems to be like just buried here. It seems to be a big
Yeah.
deal to me, at least from the outside.
And it is, but it is done. And like I said, I do work in this industry full-time, so I have friends. And I hire an amazing company to take care of my billing. So they have been very gracious and helpful also.
Awesome. And how's the integration of the reporting going? I think that you guys have been doing great job.
We've always been
Generally
doing
speaking,
well.
I wanted to give you that shout out last time as well. So it looks like, yeah,
We do very well, so,
yeah. I think we have made a lot of progress in the last year.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for doing that. I think it is well deserved, that accolade, I think, in general. I think we can all agree to that. And Kim, thank you to you as well, by the way. You are sitting there, I know, but
Hey, I
you
can't
are a
do
big
it
part
without
of
my
that. Yeah. So, thank you. Moving on to police, Chief.
Chief?
Good evening, everyone. Very good news on the major investigations. You may recall going back several months ago, back this summer, we had the cases of Exxon, Cumberland Farms, and Golden Opportunities. Those suspects are currently in custody, and our warrants are now pending judicial review. So we should have some information on arrests and charges for you for maybe the next meeting, but the detectives did a heck of a job tracking down leads through really digital resources and phones and LPR resources to get us there, and come to a probable cause finding, just waiting for final court review. This month, we brought on two of our newer officers, Officer Gardino and Vernali are on the road working on their own. And we currently have one more certified officer in the background process. We'll likely conclude that discussion with the staff tomorrow, whether we're going to move or not, but all things are looking good there. We've been really hammering and pumping away at our community events. You may see us, the Facebook's been pretty active, toy drives and fun runs. I just want to know more, check out the Facebook. But I've been very active and out there in the community, which I'm very proud of. And what you'll notice, this is November. This is one of our busier months where folks are coming out to do their holiday shopping. And if you've done your review, which I'm sure you have, you'll notice we've had an increase in some accidents and some larcenies. And I can tell you that the larcenies are attributed to 12 cases alone just from Walmart because they have brought in more staff, more asset protection staff. So they are calling us more frequently. That attributed about 12 of the total larcenies just for the month there. And as well as the accidents, it's a slight increase of from 1 to 6. One of those was actually on the 91 ramp just at the bottom, which we took as an injury accident. But again, you're just seeing an increase in traffic and travel folks out for the holidays, so some of our numbers do tend to trend up at this time of year. And I stand ready for any questions.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Chief. Just a question on a couple of data points. So, I mean, looking at your chart, I mean, one piece of really good news is that last year, year total, we had 47 motor vehicle thefts, and this year through November, we have 24. So unless there's some huge spike in December, we're looking to be, down at least 40% from last year. Do you know if other nearby towns are experiencing the same thing? Is this kind of a more general trend, or is it been specific to Rocky Hill? Do you know?
I think, don't have the data to support you for Weathersfield in our region, but I can tell you that the continued efforts at the task force in Hartford, out of the task force in the city, have led to a lot of leads, a lot of proactive police work, and a lot of arrests, whether in our communities or outside of that. And they are locking up. You may have noticed that the FBI was in town a few weeks ago in the news. They ran an operation outside of an independent operation, and that was tied to car thefts and other crime. So there are multiple groups going after these folks, and I think that's what you're seeing, the trend trending down, which is really good. We'll keep our fingers crossed and hope it stays that way. Yeah.
That combined with zero catalytic converter thefts this year, last I heard. So those are two things that we were talking about a lot a year ago, and it's good to see such great progress in both those this year. So my other question is, on calls for service in general, I was just struck by this. So, so last year, your average monthly calls for service of all kinds were a little over 3,100. And this year, I'm struck by the decline. The average is about 2,400, which is more than 20%. And we've been talking in recent meetings about an upward tick in calls for service for fire and ambulance, and yet for police, we've seen so far this year a decline of more than 20%.
Yeah.
That seems to be hard to reconcile why police would be down so much while the other first responders are up. So any thoughts on that?
This is kind of a complex answer, and it's the way our CAD system actually tracks pulls in calls. There are so many different types of call types within our system. And what I was going to share with you at the end, I'm actually working on an online reporting metric for online statistics to be available to you on our website. That's a in the future kind of project, so bear with me. It's a lot of work. If you're curious to know what I'm really hinting at is go to Glastonbury Police Department's website, look at their statistical data. It's on the left-hand side you pick, and you can actually kind of drill down on stats. So I know I went off the course here. What's happening is that in the years you see above us, the way stats were tracking was tracking pretty much every number that gets generated, whether it's self-initiated or called in from like someone calling in for a call for service. So what I've tried to do is actually give you more of a real idea and kind of cut out some of the fat on those numbers. So you're not just getting like a case follow-up and not just getting a stop into a business. So what you're seeing is while the number is down, and I recognize that, I'm trying to work with our system to drill it out for you to get you a real good number of actually calls for service that come into our station versus self-initiated activity. And I think what you're seeing here, the self-initiated activity being either a motor vehicle stop or a business or residential check, which are still important parts of our business. I mean, that is something we do regularly. But what you're seeing is a drop in those residential we call them 10-6s. So the residential business checks are kind of being, from what I can determine here, is that they're farmed out of the number the way we're pulling things now versus the way we used to get the numbers prior to me being in this seat. So prior to that, it was more or less a count of where we were on December 1st, where we were on December 31st, and then reporting back that number. And now we're kind of drilling it out and getting it kind of like an idea of really what the average month really looks like and kind of cutting out some of the fluff.
So basically, I think what I'm hearing then is that what you're categorizing as calls for service last year versus what falls on category this year is a little bit different. Last year was catching more types of activities, and including self-initiated ones by your officers, whereas this year there's less of that and it's more reflecting incoming calls?
Yeah, there's that, and I will tell you that we, as the demand and request for more traffic enforcement has been pushed upon our department and asked for go out there, you're seeing less of those types of 10-6s in being reported in the data. So I'm going to get back to a real analytical response here, so I don't want to commit myself to a response and come out like I'm not giving you the right answer. But I can tell you what I'm trying to do is give you the number, pull out those fluff numbers, and give you a real idea of what is either a traffic stop, something that's really police related, either a larceny, a call, a medical call, things of that nature that are coming out. When I'm done with the project I'm working on, I'm going to have it broken down to categories for you, but it's not something that's going to happen overnight. But I'm working really to try to make this one slide here a lot better for the panel and the committee.
Okay, yeah, that'd be helpful, just
Yep.
so we're sure we have an apples-to-apples comparison. That'd be great.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what I am working on right now, because your point is very valid, is how are we down and how's the fire department up in EMS? So I currently have one of our staff members working on a project for us to actually explore properties that have been developed in the last 10 years, that weren't here 10 years ago. And then I'm going to break that down to the last 5 years of those individual addresses to actually show you the impact of what new business and new residential addresses cause for calls for service. And where you would get that, a business or residential check would count in that case. Those are things we would never have been at 2418 Main Street if it didn't exist. So I'm hoping to have that for you in the future as well. And while I have your attention, also, if you have any complaints or concerns or hear anything about parking on Brook Street, particularly near Henkel Way, I encourage you to have them report that to us. Call us. We are tracking some parking issues, particularly in the evening hours, that I intend to be working with Steve Soplak over in the engineering department to have a meeting with a particular business in the area that is contributing to that. So do encourage you to if you hear anything or see anything, to please call it in so we can help those residents over there.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other?
I just want to thank the detectives for following up and getting those arrest warrants in. Very tedious job, but well done. Thank you. Hopefully they result in arrests for those major crimes we had. You answered my accident question and the larcenies, why they're up. Thank you for that. And also thank you for motor vehicle enforcement. I see you got the traffic posts. You guys have been diligently out there and being very visible and getting positive comments from the public as well. Thanks for seeing you guys out there more.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor.
So I'm going to ask you this question from Mona. Is there signage on Brook Street?
For Mona, there's currently my drive-through there, the only no parking zone that I'm familiar with at this time is in that that cutout, if you're heading eastbound, heading toward Main Street, in front of that large business there. I don't want to call the business out. But that's the only spot that actually is no parking. So it's a cutout, which is perfect for parking, but it's marked no parking. So that's what I'm working on with Steve as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, two things. Piggybacking on that question about the trend line. So I thank you for working on the system you're working on rather, and I'm looking forward to seeing it out there eventually. I'm sure it's going to take a few months. But it's very exciting, right? It's like real-time data. It seems like real-time as real time as it gets, and it can be self-serve essentially. That's what it feels like to me. So, you can go in and you can play with you would do with a dashboard essentially.
Correct. We have to be careful with what we put out. It's not that we're hiding facts or details.
Sure.
But this thing can drill down to give you a dot on a house and tell you what calls were there. I don't necessarily want to get to that point, but I think it'd be very helpful for this committee, for members of the public, to look at the last 24 hours or 2 days of work to see what we've been doing and where we've been, just even if it's just a street name. It doesn't have to be a specific address.
Correct.
So I can really drill the data out based on the different tables. This is something I've taken on my shoulders, so it's a goal for 2025, and I do think I'll have something for you. But take a look at Glastonbury. You'll really get an idea where I'm trying to go.
I will.
Just maybe not that comprehensive, to try to at least respect the confidentiality and
Privacy.
privacy of our citizens too.
Yeah. No, but it's great. It's a step towards more modernization, which is always good, right? I mean, generally speaking. The second comment I had was going off of Councilor O'Sullivan's comment about the trend lines, right? And I think I do think it's a very very good step in the right direction, taking, as you called it, fluff. I don't think it's fluff per se, but it's self-reported. A lot of times it's a check, right? And taking those numbers and other things and trying to get to a number where you can set a new baseline. Essentially what you're doing now is just setting up a new baseline for us, right? And for the public, right? And I think in a year or two, probably, we should be just looking at how you're reporting the data now. And I think in that case, until we have that kind of couple of years of trend line, I think there will always be a little bit of a mismatch, Councilor, with the fire and the Aetna numbers and with PD, because again, the way you are measuring things now is different, right? Just to be clear, the way you are capturing and what you are calling events or you're calling calls.
Yes.
So just to be clear, I think, and that's for the better. That's I want to be clear about that. That's actually for the better.
The nice thing is that I can, once I make that determination of what we want to track and how, I can recalculate the same table. I don't have to go back. I just have to really check the boxes I want and maybe build you a second report. So that's another goal for this year, to work on that, to give you a real clear line. But I think, whether it's empirical or not, just the study of those new businesses in 10 years is going to speak to all of us here about what they mean to all of us in our services. And, we were at 2418 Main Street on this first day they were open for an evading car accident. So there's our first number on Kelson Row.
And one last thing, last question for you. These traffic posts, right? These are fantastic, in terms of proactive action, right? And you did mention this, right? It was a lot of people have come up and they've called you, and you are taking proactive action. So I congratulate you on that. I just wanted to make sure I call that out, because these traffic posts are actually more helpful than you would think, right? Because I do hear back from residents talking about, hey, I'm seeing more they don't necessarily want to get a ticket, obviously. So I want to be careful about how I express this. But people who are not driving at those speeds are actually thankful that, we are seeing more presence. Because definitely there are spots where people are driving 70 miles an hour. So I just wanted to give you credit
Keep
for
it
that.
going. We've been doing them, but I think
Yeah.
it's great to report them.
Exactly.
And we'll keep it on going for you.
Exactly. I'm going to call this out in the town council meeting, so I just wanted to tell you, this is good to see.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not the least, we'll move on to Health District.
Can't hear you, Charlie.
Hold on.
We have to rewind.
Charlie, we can't hear you.
Let them know again. I don't think you heard us.
No,
No.
we're working on it.
Okay.
I think we got the message.
It's like we're playing charades now, right?
Cover your cough.
Sounds like
Yeah, sleep well.
3 syllables.
Oh, dear.
Should we, Charlie, you can hear us, right? I think he can.
You can't see him, no.
You can just give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. How's that?
Can you hear us?
There we go, thumbs up. We're
You
doing
could
it.
hear us.
Yeah, but we can't hear you.
Not yet. There.
Should we get Charlie? Charlie, you can. I was just wondering if we should move on and maybe Charlie, we can do a combined report next time if you have a written one already there, right? Wash hands. Yes, yeah, we got that. You got that.
That's the big one.
But thank you. Sorry for
Right now. okay.
apologies for the inconvenience, Charlie.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Now moving on to old business, we have discussion, possible action, Mission CIT contract, fire department, training grounds. Anybody from Mission CIT wants to come up to podium? For the record, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, Peter Morato, Mission CIT, and Warren Fisher, Mission CIT.
If he can do it himself. For the record, just.
And Warren Fisher, CEO of Mission CIT.
Thank you.
So basically, I guess that we would answer any questions that you may have. I believe the fire department has said it very well and represented the need in the project and what we're really looking to do. But if there's any questions, would you like to? Go ahead.
Just one thing. If I may, again, thank you for continuing this and your consideration. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware at the scope of the training throughout the year. And fire training outdoors, live fire, in the types of containers we're discussing, generally takes place between April 1st and may go as late as beginning mid-November, which means that it's about, at most, 7 months a year, and 5 months there's just no outdoor training. So when we're looking for what is it going to affect the local businesses here, again, during the week, nothing. Training will be on weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays. And it would only occur during 7 months of the year. And frankly, if we're doing 3, 4 a month, it's going to be a lot. So, and what it's going to affect the community, the best way to describe it is if your neighbor has a fire going in their fireplace and you come out and say, oh, there's a fire. And the fireplace smells good. And that's going to be about it. But as has been already reported, there's been no complaints for the last 2 decades. So that's what I would expect. And again, I wanted to put it in context. Last time I was here, you asked us to look for studies. And as an AI professor, you would understand that Mission CIT makes extensive use of AI in our content development. We're licensed with various tools and products. And we did our research. And we did our research through the best one we could figure was Claude to do the research and go back to 2010. And there was a study done in Texas at the largest fire school in the country, which does petroleum burns, which is irrelevant to what we do. There was a study in Maryland that, again, does types of burns that we just don't do here. And I couldn't find a representative burn, representative facility that does similar clean burns for what we're doing. So I didn't know any other tools. My experience as of late is that the AIs that have ingested information through April of 2024 would have those studies, and they just didn't exist. So, and unfortunately, I couldn't provide something that doesn't exist.
No, thanks for trying. I mean, thanks for looking into it, and that was the ask, and you did. So thanks for being here. And what I'll do now is I would like to continue on. I have a lot of thoughts about things which we discussed last time and the things that were addressed today, right? And the things you are addressing currently. But before I do that, I will just go to my colleagues on the committee and start with Councilor O'Sullivan.
Yeah, I don't have any further questions on the presentation, so thank you.
I do have some. First of all, I'd like to thank all the volunteers that are here and that what your services you provide for our town. It's valuable, you know, as our committee supports you guys, our whole town council does, and you're very valuable to our town. Thank you. My concern isn't about getting this training because Mission CIT has proven that for our fire department, for our town, they're a wealth of information and they're a superior training company. And we've been under contract with them for many years. My concern is that it's a fair contract and a fair deal for the town of Rocky Hill taxpayers. And as to what I read in the contract, I don't believe that as in my opinion right now. I'm hoping that Mission CIT can work with this subcommittee to improve the contract so that we can get this service in our town, because it is a valuable addition to our training grounds that we have right now. A little history on the training grounds. It was bought in 2022 for $250,000 by our town. Part of the purposes was for our training of our fire department. Credit goes to your members of your department who helped build that training ground. The fire department members themselves, Henry Vassell, Kevin Mort, continue to build that. John Ritchie and others had made improvements. So a lot of this goes with you guys working on this and improving it. From what I've done research, it's probably the best, or within the top 3 anyhow, volunteer training grounds in the state of Connecticut. Thanks to our town providing funds for it and you guys for developing it and using it. So we have a great training ground right now. Is there room for improvement in Mission CIT? I believe there is. But I need to have a fair contract for the town in order for myself to support it. We talked about the environmental study. I have gotten a lot of concerns from people in the area. We have 3 daycares in the area. We have 2 55 and overs. Many of those people have contacted me and they're concerned about the burns. I'm going to ask you guys, how often are you going to do the wood burns at that facility if you are to use a training ground?
Literally for 7 months a year, if you look at the max possible times, it'd be 8 times a month. The likely would be somewhere between 2 and 4.
Okay. And you're saying you're using wood products to burn. What is the reason for that?
The reason for the Class A material?
Yes.
The Class A material is just giving us the realistic smoke condition that, as the members were talking about before, they have a very good prop in the propane prop that they have now, but they lose the realistic approach because of the theatrical smoke. So this just adds the smoke to make a more realistic condition, as if they were going to a regular structure fire.
Is it going to be inside the container or outside the container?
So all the burning will be done inside the container in a chamber that will be remote from the area of training. So no members will actually be crawling into the area that's on fire. They'll be remote from the area that will just be producing the realistic look and approach from the smoke issued from it.
I do have some information about a study that was done. It was done by the State of Connecticut Office of Labor Relations, and it's 2011R0085. And that has to do with smoke at the fire training schools. This author, Jennifer Brady, says that there are both long-term and short-term environmental effects due to particles of pollution from smoke. Short-term effects are agitated lungs, people with asthma, acute bronchial infections. Long-term effects may be associated with problems with lung development, especially in children, and it may even cause premature death. This was done by the state of Connecticut. So my concern possibly with the older individuals, as I said, there's 255 older communities. There's a business right in front of this fire training school. And she mentions that for older adults with chronic heart disease, lung damage, and in younger kids, as there are 3 daycare facilities in the area, respiratory problems being that their lungs are still developing. So how could you guys address those concerns that I have and some of the public has?
Okay, so I certainly won't debate that obviously any type of products of combustion that we can go back and see that there are going to be adverse, health effects based on specific groups, for sure. We're not debating that. We're saying that we're going to do it in a manner that obviously we wouldn't be doing it during the week when the daycare would be in session. So to remedy the situation of the daycare, that would be it. We feel by doing it in a controlled atmosphere that we're lessening the environmental impact. We are really putting our best foot forward as far as the preventative cancer measures and gross decon for the members that will be working there, and basically following the NFE standard of 1403 and making sure we follow. That is a national standard for live fire training that is incorporated by any facility that legitimately does any type of live fire. And we feel by following that policy, and what that means is we're following a policy based on fuel loading. So we're not overpacking, we're not overburning material, we're burning what has deemed to be necessary for a live fire evolution. So that we believe that we can lessen the impact of those environmental considerations.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
The studies reflect the fire schools. The fire schools have 3 4-story concrete burn houses. 3? Yeah. 3-story, okay. And the volume of what goes into creating that fire in that burn house compared to what we're doing with a small chamber attached to a Connex box, it's not even close. It's a fraction of it, small fraction of it. I can't give you an exact, but, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain.
I'm
yeah.
sorry. So a typical Connex box, about the size of it, so if a container is 20 feet long, would be burning in that probably 10-foot section, so it's going to be 10 by, an 8-foot span, and that would probably be our burn chamber. And I think what my colleague is talking about here in the burn facilities at the regional fire schools or the fire academy, they're large concrete buildings, and you burn in multiple rooms at a time. So certainly you'll generate a lot more smoke than we would there. But again, yes, we will generate smoke. I mean, to be fully transparent, yeah, 100%. But we're trying to limit the amount of smoke that we would obviously emit.
Thank you. I just don't want to minimize that, though. There are health effects from it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. What type of additions to our training ground are you planning on doing? And what purpose are the containers going to be used for?
So the props that we were originally creating was going to be a residential layout. So we would create various conditions to replicate residential room layouts and mapping of a residential home, where we can do different types of evolutions. Skill set burns is what we call it. We are not looking to build a burn building. We are not looking to replace a regional asset of a burn building. We are looking to create skill sets based on the need of the evolution that we could introduce live fire and live smoke. So the props from, as the chief said, company operations, from performing gaining entry, forcible entry, to performing RIT, which is to rescue a downed firefighter, to performing roof ventilation, to performing fire attack using hose lines. Those are the evolutions that we'll be recreating.
Thank you. With this, these props, there's obviously they're going to have to be set up. You're talking about welding, designing rooms in there, fabricating the props. There's nothing in the contract that says who's going to be funding this.
So all the fabrication will be on Mission CIT, and we will create the props, we will maintain the props. None of the burden of fabrication will be on the town of Rocky Hill.
So the town crew won't be using to position these crops or in any
So
way?
we're fortunate enough that the training ground is pretty level and set up, and being that these do not require a foundation, they're just shipping containers. As long as we level the property, which if we needed to, that's done via some blocks or some cement blocks to make sure they're level, but there would be no sort of foundations or slabs that would be needed for these, no.
But how are they going to be moved to? Obviously, these things are heavy.
So we will, when we purchase, the containers from the facility, they will be delivered.
Be delivered. Who's going to offload them though and place them?
Well, the agency that we buy the containers from, they'll offload them.
And they'll place them where you need them. Very good.
And that's how the 5, 6 containers that are there now got placed. There are vendors out there who will come in there, put them in with cranes, fasten them in, bolt them in, and set them in place.
Just inquiring that it's not a town responsibility to do it. That's what my concern was for financially. It's something maybe I'd consider you putting in the contract that you're going to take care of all that expense, please.
I'd have to review, let me get in. Go ahead. Without doing a quick review, my understanding was it was in the contract, that it was Mission CIT's responsibility for this, but we can review it, and we can review the wording and make sure that the town is satisfied with that wording. But the intent in the contract was that Mission CIT is paying for this.
Good, thank you. Within the contract, 4.2, there's about grant applications. Can you just talk about the grant application process with us, please?
Absolutely. So with the training site, that is in a key area such as Rocky Hill, and you do a lot of training and mutual aid responses with various communities, with that comes grant opportunity. So with grant opportunity, one of the parts of our business is grant writing. So we would obviously be providing those grant writing opportunities as it pertains to the training site to gain, equipment, to gain improvements. And not only will, the site benefit, but the Rocky Hill Fire Department, of course, would benefit, because we would be looking to put in a grant to upgrade air compressors, to upgrade, SCBA cylinders and stuff like that. That's how we see the grant opportunity.
So with the grant writing, is the grant going to be in the name of the town of Rocky Hill? Are you filling it out for our town, or is it for your
Yes, because
company?
you own the training site, so it will be for the Rocky Hill Fire. It will not be a grant for Mission CIT. It'll be a grant for the Rocky Hill Fire Department.
Okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to write a grant for ourselves anyway.
Okay, I just wanted clarification on that, because with most grants, there's a percentage that the person writing the grant or the organization has to pay.
Right, so there is a grant match, and we would have to discuss that with the town if the cost benefit was to where the grant match is something that the town would agree to say this is a huge benefit to the department, and we would allocate the funding for the grant match. But that's something we would discuss prior to writing any sort of grant.
But that's something I would want in this grant
Yeah, that's
area.
that's easy.
The percentage not covered is Mission CIT's responsibility.
Well, we'd have to discuss that, obviously, further. We would be providing the grant services free of charge, but that would be something we'd have to negotiate if we were to do that. Because grant
Well, I'm
match,
asking you-
grant matching is, grant matching can be significant depending on the amount of the grant. It's usually a 10% match. So, if we were to get a grant that would regionally change the look of the training site that would benefit the mutual aid partners, I believe that'd be something that you would have to discuss and see if it was worthwhile for the town to explore that option.
I'm trying to discuss that as a subcommittee. It's a concern of mine, because you could, most grants are 20 or 30% that the town would have to pay.
Usually it's a 10% match for AFG.
Right, it's AFG grants. We're just finishing AFG season this week. I don't know if we've done 20 grants, 25 grants for clients. And I apologize. And with that, we can't write a grant unless the town asks us to write a grant. They may request it, and then we look at it, and each one may be different. I mean, if you're getting, one of the things that you may be getting is free equipment. You may be supplementing equipment that you're using for your fire service, and we're writing the grant for you, but there's also some benefit for the fire ground, and then that has to be looked at individually. It's not a blank, it's, the types of grants that may be written, there's no one type of blanket grant that, Mission CIT gets all the benefit. The town may get all the benefit, and there's just a little bit that comes to the training ground as a result, but it's beneficial, and we're writing the grants for you, free of charge.
Can I raise a question relevant to that, Councilor Whalen? Sure. To Chief Gary. Chief, is that something, the town's share of one of those grants, is that potentially something we could use some of the highway reimbursement money for?
We could use that for that, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, and that grant would be a coordinated effort with the Director of Public Safety, myself, and the vendor, based on a needs analysis.
So, yeah,
And the town manager
perhaps.
has something to
Just let me
say.
clarify, the grant process would be exactly the same process that we'd go through now. Town council will have to give your approval for any type of grant process. Any type of grant application would have to come to the town council for approval. So if you felt that there was a match and if it wasn't worthy, then the vote would be no.
Would that come through a consent agenda item, or would that come through something open
It
to
would go
talk
through
about?
finance first. As it does now, it would go through finance, but any consent item could be taken off for discussion if the town council felt it was important enough.
Talking with you, the town manager, these grant applications, usually you have to pay up the 100% first, and then we get reimbursed. Is
Yeah,
that accurate?
reimbursement, absolutely.
Do we know what how much this is gonna be? Say it's a $100,000 item, do we have funds enough to cover that?
We would determine that when if there was a grant proposal from Mission, we would need that type of detail before any type of decision, absolutely.
Thank you.
Please continue.
Thank you. So you mentioned that tonight, that you would be in charge of the maintenance and upkeep of the training facility.
Correct.
Yet 4.4 says that the town will be responsible for that. So I just want a clarification in that, please, in the contract.
Oh, okay, no, I could address that. So we did discuss that, and that is saying that the town upkeeps your site as is, correct, right now? The town upkeeps the site. They
we
plow
do.
the snow, they put down millings if they need it, they keep the weeds down. We're asking you to continue to do that because it is your site. Anything that has to do with the maintenance of the containers, of course, we will certainly take care of.
Okay, maybe you could clarify that up for us, please. Now, maybe this is something the town manager, does this stuff have to go to planning and zoning? Do we know for these improvements for the buildings? Okay.
Kim, please, can you come up here, just for the record? It's a direct question, so. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Serving Kim Ritchie, town planner, in this capacity.
Thank you.
This training facility originally went to planning and zoning. Depending on what they're proposing, it could be a minor modification that I could certainly approve, depending on what's being proposed. I see if they do have to go to planning and zoning, they would apply like 21 days prior to, and more than likely, they would have a decision that following month. But I don't know what they're proposing, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
by the way, just quick follow-up on that. Is the town applying for that zoning application, or is it Mission CID?
It could be the town.
Okay, just to
that would be-
clarify on that.
The town would have to sign the application,
Okay,
being the owner of the property.
okay, thank you.
How many hours are your sessions?
How many hours are our sessions?
Yeah.
So they would be no longer than 4 hours at a clip.
Question about 7.1, general liability. I direct it first to the town. Have we talked to our insurance carrier about the liability for this?
Yeah, they reviewed the contract, and we incorporated their changes into that contract.
Do we have a premium increase because of this facility being there? With extra people coming in?
No, what they'll do is just look at the new value of that, so it'd be the coverage for that, but we just have the building coverage under the LAP contract. So,
For the buildings?
Mhm.
What about if somebody
Be
gets,
for the-
what about if somebody gets hurt out there?
Oh, absolutely, we always have liability regardless, we're covered.
Okay, but they're
It
aware
wouldn't
that?
change because of it. No,
It
they've
wouldn't
looked
change?
at this. No.
Okay, thanks.
So it will require no change, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
In the existing policy?
Correct.
I was concerned about your coverage. I mean, you have a $1 million and a $2 million coverage.
We have 3 million.
3 total, or,
Yeah,
well,
we have a 3 total, yes.
yes. And your carriers are okay with that?
Yes.
Thanks. 9.2, within the contract, I have a concern that you say you're going to use our classrooms and laboratories in Cascade machine. One written proposal that we had said you weren't using the classrooms and laboratories. It's something changed, or?
I think it's written here with prior approval.
So you'll be using them?
Yeah, but we need approval. We just can't do it. We need your approval.
Right, it's part of the contract.
And that wouldn't be that wouldn't be an always. That would be on scheduled events that would be obviously cleared through the chief prior. This wouldn't be like we would be there using the facility in the building. Yeah, would we like to use the lavatories if we had to? But if we were going to do an event that we felt warranted a portable toilet delivered, then we may go ahead and do that, and that, of course, would be on our expense.
I am concerned a little bit about the wear and tear and custodian, our custodian being used to, clean up the building and keep an eye on it. Does the town manager know how often we have a custodian go there now?
Mike knows that.
Do you know that?
Was it
Mike,
Gary?
do you know how many times you guys get cleaned?
Yeah, we have a 20-hour-a-week custodian who takes care of that building. As for how many trips he makes up there, I couldn't tell you. I can get an average for you if you'd like, but
Is
we
that
have a
20
dedicated.
hours for all 3 buildings that we have?
Yes.
Yeah, that's all of them, not just that building.
That's correct.
Okay. Because I'm just concerned. I mean, this is a private business using it. Now, we're going to have to be cleaning up after them.
Well, of course, we would be good citizens of it. I mean, we've been good citizens of the Rock Hill Fire Department, no matter where we've been doing a class at the firehouse, at the training grounds. And that's easily something that we can make sure that we're certainly not going to leave your place in disarray, because we want to keep a good relationship. So we can easily work to make sure that that's never a problem.
Well, just to make sure, like, I kind of re-emphasize that point, I don't think the concern is that you will leave it in disarray.
No.
It's, we have a senior center downstairs which can be rented by individuals in this town. But we have a fee for using that, not because we think they're going to leave it in disarray. It's because, they're incidentals. That's all it is. And things happen when your facilities are getting utilized. So, yeah, it's in good faith. Like this, the question is in good faith. It's not to say that you're going to,
Just as an
trash the
FYI,
place.
yeah. As an FYI, we currently rent space from 3 fire schools in the state, and we pay them for that because we're using their space and they have to clean. So we have no problems doing that. We just need an advance. And again, part of this agreement was we didn't understand the baseline of what we're using and what you're paying for. But if there's a rental fee in order to do this so that you can pay for your maintenance people to work an extra 2 hours that weekend to come in and do it, we're happy to pay that.
Yeah, and that will be a great time, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
for,
important. Thank you for offering that.
And I'm looking at the time, Councilor Phelan and Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, I think we should probably look at some
Yeah,
type of
and-
fee structure.
Yeah, we would like to continue, Mr. Fisher, if we can, next time, next meeting. And I will go back to one thing before I adjourn, is I had asked the question of you and the town manager to put together some costs of operation, which goes directly to the last question. And all these questions can be combined into that one Excel sheet, if you will, and might be
and all
much
that.
easier to answer these questions if you do that. So I would really encourage everyone involved, including the town manager, to put together a cost of operations worksheet so that we can look at it.
And that's only if they use the interior of the building, correct?
I'm going
Cost
to
of
have
operations means
questions
everything.
about the exterior also, about something about using the property, of some type of an agreement. I have some suggestions, but,
I'd like
We're
to
open
make
to
some
your
comments
suggestions.
before we stop the meeting.
Yes,
Just
please.
before you adjourn. So Franny, you had mentioned a study. Do you have copies for the committee?
sure do.
And what is the date of that study?
2011.
And was it specifically a study of a training facility? Like, whose training facility was the state of Connecticut studying? Because you mentioned that it
This
could
is
be
Office of-
academies, fire, burn, I don't know the language, burn houses at academies, which are different than burn containers, which is what's contemplated by this agreement. So in your study, which training facility was the state's?
This is from the Office of Labor Relations, State of Connecticut.
Yeah.
It's 2001R.
No, but my question is,
It says the effects of smoke on individuals.
So they
That's
weren't.
what this is about.
They weren't studying a specific training facility in Connecticut.
They may have been.
Well, do you know? I just want to know, like, because it sounds like it just may be two different things, and I have a concern. So we can figure that out in another meeting. My suggestion to the committee is that you put this on special meeting, because where do you guys travel from?
Yeah, from Shelton and
Okay.
Bloomfield,
It's just because I think this is like the third,
fourth.
time, and we don't give you our undivided attention. We give you half of a meeting, and this is a big, lots of questions.
We tried
still
that
not-
last month, Madam Mayor. You asked us to do it. We had conflicts, we couldn't do it.
Right, but
I'm
moving
sorry.
forward,
Okay, no, here's the
moving
thing.
forward, I think, is it
possible.
something that, well, I'd like to recommend you consider it. Do a special meeting so that we can all sit for as many hours as we need to sit, and we have the undivided attention of everybody specific to this, because it's important. It's important to the community, it's important to you. And I feel like we're piecemealing this, that's all. So I'm
Well,
just
we
trying
are-
to make it more efficient.
We are on time, so I have to adjourn, but we'll take it under consideration.
The chair,
And-
schedule 2025 schedule. Vote,
To do your meetings.
your meeting schedule.
Okay, let's move to that item, the approval of the meeting schedule for 2025.
Thank you.
Thank
Do
you.
I have a motion to approve the meeting dates for 2025 for the Public Safety Committee?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.